one time having a bad experience with a brand that they like, over 20% are likely never to come back to that brand. You give them 2 bad experiences, they're out.
Hi, I'm Matt Egol, the host of the CX and Culture Connection, the podcast for leaders looking to drive impact by focusing on customer experience and culture together. I'm excited to be here today with Nitzan Shaer, who is the CEO and co-founder of Wevo. We've known each other for a number of years. Actually, we worked with them when I was at PwC, and I'm enjoying working together at some clients now. And he's going to have a lot of great insights to share today. And this is actually his 4th startup. So for all you entrepreneurs out there or people who want to behave like lean startups, he's got a wealth of experience too.
Matt, good morning, and thank you for having me on the podcast today. Excited for our conversation. A lot going on in this space these days.
Well, absolutely. And I know that your company's growing really rapidly. Congrats on making the Inc. 5000 list for the 2nd year in a row. And now with this AI thing, you have a lot of new tools and toys to play with to kind of continue to reimagine the insight space.
Indeed. And Matt, this is a very timely opportunity for us to be talking as the CX space, venture to say the entire user research CX UX is beginning a transformation. I'd say once in a decade level transformation. And glad to be talking about part of that today.
What do you see then as some of the big changes that are accelerating right now?
So I think in the previous era that we're at the tail end now, companies large and small understood the value of customer centricity, asking customers, talking and engaging with them early on in the product development, and then post-launch, going into a series of A/B testing and continuous improvement. The challenge has been that doing and conducting user research and doing it well is a lot of time, effort, and money. So what happens in reality is that for most companies, only some of the products, some of the features, some of the marketing campaigns actually get the love of feedback. And many times it's qualitative feedback. We were taught back in user research school that 8 people in a study is good enough. So you end up with qualitative insights. What the market is starting to shift to now is to understand that with new technologies rolling out, there's actually an opportunity to get quantitative insights, basically to understand which idea is the best, which product is going to succeed or fail in the design phase. And that completely transitions us from a world in which you launch a product, you launch a marketing campaign, and then you go down on one knee and you pray that it's going to be successful. Most products, most campaigns actually are not. But that launches a series of multiple months, multiple years until you run out of money, basically, of trying to iterate and improve the product during A/B testing. Some are, of course, successful. But we're now transitioning to have that process take place to a larger degree in the design process before you launch.
I mean, I think there's a lot of really cool and important ideas to unpack there for a minute for the audience, if it's okay. You got my head on fire right now, Nitzan. Like one thing that I'm thinking about listening to you is the whole lean startup challenge, which is you got to get your product market fit right before you run out of money, right? And a lot of companies are constrained by the opportunity to get feedback of all the things they could test. Do they make the right choices of what to test? Did they make the right pivots? They have limited time and money and resources to try things. So some people might not make it to the other side just because they had bad luck, right? And what you're doing is creating that now there's an opportunity to do more with less and actually test and learn more things in the design stage and avoid some of those, false failures where they had a good idea, but they just ran out of time. and money.
Matt, you're spot on. The transformation is so fundamental here that it actually will increase the rate. I believe it will increase the rate of innovation that we are seeing in the market because exactly the point that you were making, less startups, and this is true for startups as well as for large companies, less startups and less large companies will see failure because they're getting the product right before it even launches. So they can accelerate to profitability, to success at a much higher rate. And we're seeing that transformation start to happen now. A number of companies that we're working with, and I'm happy to share with you some of their names today, are already experiencing this transition, de-risking the launch of new products and new campaigns because they are ensuring to a higher degree, nobody has a crystal ball, but ensuring to a higher degree than was possible before that those products, those ideas, those concepts are going to be successful before they launch them. And the most successful, the most leading brands are doing it even before they code it. So they're not wasting weeks and months of valuable developer time in coding products that are going to fail in market.
What often happens is the test, learn, act cycle has delays built in, right? Where you do something, you produce something, then you test and get feedback. And what a lot of lean startups try to do is do wet tests or do, test something with a broken back end or test things earlier so they can get feedback sooner and pivot faster. And what you're highlighting is, and we can go into more details, like the technology is allowing us to do better, faster, and cheaper testing on steroids. Like basically you can do lots and lots of experimentation either before you launch, before you hyperscale, before you go to the next stage of the S curve, to sustain optimizing improvement with more content variety, more, there's all kinds of use cases across the life cycle that being able to do more research for less money is valuable.
I think that's exactly right. Nobody will say that they don't want feedback earlier on so they can accelerate the path to success. The reason what keeps holding people back is a technology point, which in order to get that feedback early on, it just costs too much. It took too long, so they didn't do it. So the best way to do it was blonde. Again, take the knee, pray for success, and then start to iterate in the market. There's another really, we didn't get to how to do this yet. We'll get to that in just a moment. But I do want to emphasize the size of the shift, the seismic shift that we are about to see in market as companies accelerate the time it is for successful innovation to launch because they know what's going to be, they know with a higher degree what's going to be successful in market given this new technologies that are now coming online.
So let's spend a minute just to give people a little more context, a little more understanding of what Wevo is and what problems it's solving for customers. Wevo is just for folks, is a user research platform that leverages AI to deliver insights in a fraction of the time. So, listen, could you share a little bit more about like the genesis of Wevo and how it's evolved and how the game has shifted as you layered AI into it more?
As you mentioned earlier, this is the fourth company that I've either co-founded or joined early. And what I've seen time and time again through the work in those companies and through the work of partners and many that I've interviewed is that too many I refer to product and marketing campaigns together, by the way, because it is a concept that we launch and that we hope to see succeed in market. Too many of those have failed in market. Too many of those take a long ramp time once they're live to succeed. Wevo was launched with that background to say there must be a better way. It can't be that we are using our prospective customers and our customers as guinea pigs to try and fail on our product ideas. I think that's fundamentally wrong. As a matter of fact, I will go even a step further and say, I believe that 5 years from now, when the books are written about this era, people will look back and say, we were in the dark ages. How is it possible that you thought that using your customers and prospects as guinea pigs is okay? Didn't you understand that the patience people have circa 2024 is actually shrinking? We have research that shows people after one time having a bad experience with a brand that they like, over 20% are likely never to come back to that brand. You give them two bad experiences, they're out. Now, think as an innovative company, if you're rolling out new products, new ideas, new campaigns, and you're risking that many of your customers won't like them, they won't come back, what are you doing? How bad is this idea of, yeah, let's put out an MVP as early as we can, and yeah, if the customers don't like it, too bad.
To be fair, like if we shift past the early stage startups and go to some of the bigger companies, companies I've worked with, the research and testing spend varies from 10 million to 500 million, right? So they're like, and what we're talking about here is how do you get, and also there's often a question of what can we afford to do research on? And people even talk about the return on research, like which research is worth doing because I have limited time and money and bandwidth. So how many research tests am I going to run for my budget, for my limited 500 million or my limited 50 million? The good news is if you do this in a more modern way with platforms like Wevo, customer listening, video replay on the website, mining things with AI, there's all kinds of things you can do that I've actually seen companies save 30 to 50% of their research testing spend. They don't cut it, they redeploy it. It actually pays for their MarTech investment. So if you want to create a self-funding flywheel, one of the best levers is to improve the ROI and effectiveness of your research and testing approach. Another is to rationalize the number of vendors you work with. And you can also attack the cost of quality. If you do things right the first time, you can reinvest the savings. But what we're talking about here today is not just better and faster, it's actually cheaper. And you can redeploy the savings for even more insights to get your flywheel spinning.
Matt, I couldn't agree with you more. And the cost that is so many times overlooked, cost that you spend on user studies or user research, it's really the cost of the development that you wasted hours, weeks, months of developers working on the wrong product and you throw all that code away. Even the bigger cost is the cost of customer churn and lost revenue that you didn't get because you didn't put the right product. And I love your point on the flywheel, because once companies that do research, that invest less of product launch, right, in when you're still in concept and design phase, the value they attain is tremendous. It's earlier revenue, it's less failed product, it's less wasted time on development costs. And once they get the accounting right for that and they measure those, it's a no-brainer to invest earlier on.
So right now we're talking more why and a little bit of what. I'm going to dive a little more into what and how for a minute. When we first started working together, Wevo was a early rapid growth company that would allow us to do user testing, where if we wanted to test a product or an ad campaign or a new website, rather than going out and doing focus groups or surveys and a long lead time, we could rapidly tap into your panel of people and test things really quickly and go through many iterations in the same amount of time it would take to do one typical piece of research. So we got more iterations, more bites of the apple, very quickly, very easy to do. Now we're able to not only test things, but we're actually able to generate content to test using the AI. So it's a double whammy. We not only can we do it faster, but we can, and I don't think it's less about saving time on the creative. An example comes to mind with our educational tours client, where we built the personas. You can help with that too. That was something we didn't take full advantage of, to be honest. But you got new offerings to help build the personas too. But what I found really exciting is we took the personas and took them to the next level to actually figure out which content would resonate most with which personas, and actually recommend the copy that we should use in the market tests. This is something that we did in 2 or 3 weeks that normally would have taken 2 or 3 months.
Matt, you're already diving into the solutions, and it is absolutely phenomenal to see what you have done with those results and those tools. Allow me to unpack it into two phases. Um, the evolution of Wevo, and I think the evolution we're going to see in this space. The one is doing the faster, rapid, low-cost research with human beings, with potential customers giving the feedback. So in order to enable that movement from, hey, let's talk to 3 customers, let's talk to 8 customers, to a level that you can get actually qualitative feedback, talking to 120 customers at a time, knowing, because at that level, you can already actually know A is going to do likely better than B. If there's a significant difference with 120, you can't do that with 8 people. It doesn't work. But with 120 people, you actually can. So the first stage of Wevo that delivered quite a bit of our growth was creating a tool. We call it Wevo Pro, which enables you to get feedback from 120 people. We have a pool of 60 million people around the world. So you can find 120 that are really the prospect, fit the profile of the prospect that you're looking for. And we've automated that process of getting that feedback. So it's usually about 10 minutes for you to launch a study, and Wevo will get both qualitative and quantitative feedback, what people like, what they don't like, what can be done better, how trustworthy is it, how valuable is it, and give you the insight on how to make it better. So that was the first product that we launched that really took down a 3-week, 4-week process into just a few single-digit days. And the amount of effort that was required was no more than 10 minutes to launch this study, because we automated so much of that infrastructure. So that was phase 1. What we're seeing now, and I'm happy you already started to describe it, and I'm happy to describe it more, is now we're putting that on steroids with AI. And the big difference with the AI that Wevo has created versus other AIs that exist in the market right now, is that we have fine-tuned an LLM in over 1 million user studies. It means we took 1 million people that have gone through this rigorous process of giving feedback to user experience. We know who they are, what they are, how they've thought about it. And we use that very, very valuable data to train an AI to basically simulate how people are going to respond to other experiences. I'm happy to share here for the first time that we have now achieved 80% accuracy leveraging the AI. That means the AI can now, Wevo Pulse is the name of this product. Wevo Pulse can now predict 80% of the insights that a group of 120 people would have given you when reviewing a new digital product, a new campaign. That curve is getting better and better over time. But given that you can do this in 5 minutes, you can get the feedback. To get 80% of the feedback in 5 minutes is transformative, given the cost and the time, which just accelerates the point we were talking earlier on how fast you can now do these iterative cycles.
To make this, more tangible, linking back to one of the client examples I mentioned, we worked on in the past, what we would have done is we would have built the personas, built the customer journey, identified how the personas engage differently on the journey, think about some opportunities to improve the experience. And then we would say, okay, let's go put something out in the market to test it. Let's go make these changes to the website based on what we learned. Let's go launch these different product campaigns, e-commerce, product, marketing, service. There's a whole host of things that have content in them that you can optimize further based on the insights you generate from the research. And personas and journeys are a means to an end. They're meant to be a springboard to change something, to tailor it to that persona for that moment in the journey. And then we could have done more research every time we want to launch something to say, let's add the cost of the research to this iteration, and we'll work in increments. We'll work in an agile way where every increment we get some new insights, or every sprint we get some new insights. But the time it took to get them makes it hard to jam that into a 2 or 3 week sprint. So you might only get research for some things every increment. So you're making choices, you're rationing. Now what we can do is we can actually truly live up to the promise of getting new insights every sprint, right? And they're very easy to get those insights. And we can test things and get feedback before we develop. You talked about the waste, the cost of quality of the development time, the marketing time, the product time. It takes time it takes to launch something. The reason in retail, for example, you don't launch tailored displays in every store is the time and effort and logistics it takes to produce them, ship them, and change them. It's just not practical to do that. But in a digital environment, the retailer also won't let you do it. But in the digital environment, you can experiment a lot, and we've been constrained by time and money. Now we can actually work in an agile approach where we get better insights every step of the way. In addition to the user testing that Nitzan's talking about, you also have customer listening data. You have other digital operational data you get about how people are engaging. And the whole approach is to continually test and learn. And this is another arrow in your quiver. And besides getting user testing, what's really exciting about the AI approach Nitzan's talking about is we can actually simulate based on the learning of all the past experiments, all the past research. Once you train the model in Wevo Pulse to think like one of your personas, it can actually go out there and act as if it's your persona to review the content. So what we've done is we train it in 5 or 6 personas and say, how would you change this content to make it more effective in the persona? And it can give you a numerical score. It says, this is how much better this will do with this persona and why. And guess what? You can test it. You can go test it and then make more The key is to find ways to test things that are sprints as opposed to 6-month cycle times.
That you hit the nail on the head on what this does to the rate of innovation and that cycle of idea generation, test the idea, feedback, idea generation, test the idea, feedback. We are now accelerating that. I would venture to say we are on the eve of a new era, the era of simulated audiences, in which we're this may be new to the area of customer experience, but this is in engineering. For years, we've had simulations. I grew up as an engineer. We simulate going to AutoCAD and we simulate how the design is going to work and how the wind is going to affect it and whether it will sustain a hurricane category 5 through simulation. We are now entering an era of simulated audiences. As you mentioned, I don't think this does not replace the existing tools and the existing listening. This is complementary. There's a lot of benefit in talking to a prospective client and talking to a customer and getting those additional perspectives, listening tools, A/B testing, all of that will continue to exist. But this is another way to rapidly get feedback at a very, very low cost, very low investment, and understand how each one of the sub-segments, micro segments, nano segments, are going to respond to different ideas. And I'd say even further, not only is this about the speed and iterativeness that you can get those feedback, and as you said, have the AI generate new ideas and immediately test them with that specific audience. Because AIs, we've known LLMs can generate a lot of content, but we need a tool to evaluate, is that content good or not for the specific persona that we are targeting, for the specific segment that we're going after. That's the beauty of this tool. As you said, it gives a score for how valuable, how intuitive, how trustworthy is this content that's experienced for that specific segment. And it's not just the researcher that can do this anymore. We're now democratizing the space and enabling marketers. We're enabling product managers. We're enabling developers. Say, I have an idea. I think we should do yellow polka dots on a pink background on the entire website. Okay, try it out. Take you 5 minutes to do the basic design, and we can simulate how the audience is going to respond to this. Will it be 100%? No, it won't be 100%. But it'll get us really close so we can say, oh, we actually want to promote this idea because it looks like it's going to do quite well.
So you've just got me thinking now a little bit more about the connection to culture. Um, you know, before I pivot there, though, I'd like to, encourage the audience, if you're really interested in this idea of microsegments and experimentation and velocity of trying things, like and subscribe to podcasts so you see more like this. But also check out the episodes with Todd Unger. He likes to call himself the accidental chief experience officer. He talks about bringing backgrounds in marketing, product, commerce all together. Like Nitin's talking about, anyone can participate in this. So embracing not just the CX team does this or the marketing team does this, but engaging hundreds of people across the organization to build a culture of experimentation, culture of collaboration. The chief experience officer is someone who's an integrator, who's somebody who drives collaboration across the organization, across marketing, product, commerce, and service, all of which need great content experiences in order to succeed. So that's one podcast you could definitely check out. There's others that you might find interesting as well. I won't list them all here.
Matt, to add this to your last point over there, a well-known book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, Daniel Kahneman, we recognize how many biases we all have. There's a lot of talk about biases that AI has. A lot of biases that us as humans have. We're full of them, packed with them. In this ability to, why is it so challenging to create new marketing campaigns? Why is it so challenging to create new products? Because when we create them, we project onto those products and ideas and concepts our own biases. One of the beauties of leveraging AI, when done correctly, when it is customized for a specific micro segment, is that it enables us to step into the shoes of that micro segment and understand how they are going to respond. Not, do I like this blue background? Great, I like all blue background. But how are they going to respond to it? And this is actually the AI helping us get out of our own biases. Now, we have to be aware of biases that AI has and so on and so forth, and do it with caution. But it can actually help us get out of our internal biases by understanding and simulating how various sub-segments that we're not used to interacting with every day are going to respond to these new ideas.
The book you mentioned, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, is when I launched Journey Spark, I actually created my top 10 favorite books and did book reviews, and have since added others. But Thinking Fast and Slow was in my top 10 list. You can find the book review on the What We Think page of Journey Spark. Another book that I was thinking about, and I have a lot of the authors on the podcast. One of them that I had recently was Oded Netzer and Christopher Frank, two of the co-authors of Decisions Over Decimals. They're involved at Columbia, where I got my MBA, but they joined after, so I didn't get the benefit of their course. But what they talk about in decisions over decimals, and is what you're talking about here, which is there's a balance between intuition and data. And a lot of times getting more data is not the right answer, or it's what type of data you get. Because a lot of times when people say get more data, what they mean is go do more research, when what you really want is to run an experiment. So the type of data that you're getting, Wevo is actually a hybrid. It's a research product that you generate data often through experiments. And now what you're highlighting is the experiments can be in a virtual way versus you have to launch it in the market. And now increasingly it can be simulated and not just panel-based. So you get even faster, and it leverages the LLM across lots and lots of past research. So it's a kind of an accelerating factor. So I recommend one of the fun things in decisions over decimals is, they say don't be a Seymour. No offense to people named Seymour, but Seymour is somebody who always wants to see more data, and often, like, if people are not aligned and don't know what to do, then the bias in a culture of experimentation should be, let's experiment, let's try that, not like your data's wrong, let's stop. What you actually need to do is get more data, but the data can be an experiment versus long lead time research.
Matt, I have to put a word out on that point to transitions that happen in the beginning of eras. Clay Christensen talks about this in the Innovator's Dilemma widely. When you have a new product, a new technology that comes out, it is not perfect on day one. And the incumbents will typically say, forget about that. That's nonsense. That's not as this desktop PC is not as good as a supercomputer, right? As a server. That's never going to work. Famous quote from CEO of IBM at the beginning: very niche market, these personal computers. And same will be told the early days of cell phones and almost any disruptive technology you want to take. We are in the beginning of the simulation era. It is only, as Ethan Mollick says in his book Co-Intelligence, the AI you're using today is the worst AI you'll ever use, as it is getting continuously better. With many of the AIs out there, simulated audiences are good to a certain degree. Wevo now boasts the most accurate AI in simulating audiences. As I mentioned earlier, we're at the level of 80% of the insights that you would get from 120 people you can get now with this Wevo Pulse, the simulation of micro segments. And that is going to get better and better over time. As we're seeing that get better and better over time, I believe we're going to see more and more experiments shift to these early stages. And again, until it's not 100, and it's not going to be 100 for, I can't predict when it will be, but not for any time coming, it is important to continue to do other methods as well when you have the time and budget, and fine tune in market. All of that is going to live on. Lean startup methodology is not going away. You should absolutely launch as soon as you can. The only recommendation is first simulate.
Lean startup was also on my top 10 list.
If it wasn't there, on my personal, I would add the Co-Intelligence by Ethan Mollick, probably one of the best books I've read on AI.
Well, there's not a review on the website for that yet, but there will be in the future.
That's fine.
Yeah. Bringing back to culture, I mean, it is the name of the podcast and my book, the CX and Culture Connection. A lot of what we're talking about here is how to enable agility, not like in the software sense of the word, but like having an organization be more agile, more collaboration, more experimentation, not being rigid, being willing to test things, right? What do you see as some of the behaviors that are shifting now that we see more of, a culture of what is being enabled by these shifts?
This may surprise you or may not. I think the cultures of good and leading teams are the same cultures that are going to take us in the age forward in the age of AI. I don't think a massive cultural change is actually what we're looking for. What we're going through over here is a transition of technology, of enablement. And I'm happy to share with you, Matt, the three core tenets of our culture at Wevo. We are a helping companies improve their understanding of their customers ultimately. So we hold three values close to the heart. And I think any person at Wevo will give you this very quickly as we talk about this and act on this on a regular basis. But the first one is a better together. And better together means we're here to support each other. We're open to new ideas and truly listening, not hearing each other, but truly listening to each other and supporting each other and making each other successful. If the team doesn't work peacefully together, you won't get anywhere. Dead in the water. Everybody has to row in the same direction. The customers feel it as well. The second value is customer first. And deliberately we put customer first as the second value, because if the team isn't cohesive and operating together, you won't be able to support your customers. But that means continuing to listen to your customers. And as we enter the age of simulated audience, there will those that say, user research without users, what are you talking about? And I said, no, this is a simulation. We are very much about customers first. And we are now capable with technology to simulate to a degree, not how an individual, we're not there, how an individual will respond, but we're not anywhere near Minority Report. But we are near understanding and simulating how certain subsegments of the population are likely to respond to certain ideas. And there's enough AI training done in Pulse, as I mentioned earlier, over 1 million user experiences, that we're capable of doing that with a certain degree of confidence. Enough that's helpful. So the second one is customer first. And the third value is continuous learning. That means that we understand that we have a whole lot more to learn that we've learned until now. And if it's through podcasts like this one, if it is through courses, through books, through discussion, through ideating, there's a lot more that we need to learn as the market is rapidly shifting.
That's great. And I think, these values that you're highlighting, then they show up in behaviors of the people, and behaviors are what make culture work. And the companies that use Wevo, the companies that are investing in customer experience, they have a culture that will help or hinder their success. I agree with you that a lot of the leading practices, like if you say, it's hard to say more effective culture because there's not one more effective culture, but there's certain things you'd like to have more of. And the question is, where do you want your culture to spike? Do you want more collaboration? Do you want more flexibility? Do you want more, empathy? Like what are the behaviors you want more of in your people? And what the shift that you're describing is enabling more of those behaviors to occur with less friction. If you want people to experiment, if you want people to be inquisitive, if you want people to strike a balance between intuition and data, like the tools are actually making it easier to practice these behaviors than before.
So true. I'd like to give an example also outside of startup land. One of our customers that has been kind enough to share what they're doing with Wevo broadly, we go on roadshows together on conferences, is Mastercard. Mastercard has adopted now a culture that they value what is in front of their customers and want to ensure that their customers get only the best. And it's not empty words. They're actually putting that into practice by testing the new products that they launch, the new features that they launch before they are coded and before they are launched. So they now have, they implemented Wevo throughout the organization, and any new feature, any new digital product has to get an 85 score with Wevo. And as you remember, this is a combination of how valuable it is to the customer, how trustworthy it is, how intuitive the product is. And if it doesn't get an 85 on a scale of 60 to 100, it will not move forward to development and will not launch to the company. This is how they ensure that they internally have a culture to that delivers on this customer first, ensuring their customers get only the best, and that they don't use their customers as guinea pigs to launch something and hope that it does better. For them, it's even more important because because Mastercard is a B2B to C company, i.e., they give products to the banks, to the issuers, and then those banks and issuers interface with the end customers. They need to get it right from the beginning because a mistake over there means that 1,000 companies around the world implemented the wrong thing, and then everything has to begin to be rolled back. So their price of making a mistake is high. But the behavior we're seeing there as a market leader, I believe we will see in more, where we are seeing in more and more companies.
I know that you've sparked a lot of ideas for me. I'm positive you have for the audience as well. I'm really looking forward to the conversations. One thing that I'll offer is, as you can see, we're excited to be leveraging Wevo as part of the work we do with clients. Feel free to reach out to either of us if we can be helpful to help you understand what are some of the use cases and how this could be valuable to you. We'd be happy to have a conversation, either individually or together, and make sure that you're getting the right value from some of the concepts we're talking about in today's episode.
Matt, if I can offer your listeners a step into the world of simulated audiences today, they don't have to wait any longer. We've decided to enable a free trial for the product, fully featured, that they can start right now. All they need to do is go to wevo.ai/take a pulse, wevo.ai/take a pulse. And they can start a free trial over there, and they can experience for themselves the world of simulated audiences as we enter this new era in the customer experience space.
If people want to get in touch with you, I'm assuming LinkedIn's probably the easiest way.
LinkedIn, the best way to reach out. Yes, I look forward to continue this conversation as this era of simulated audiences is just beginning. Exciting times ahead.
Thanks, Nitzan. Thanks, everybody.